My name's Josh. This is All Things Secured, and today we're talking about identity theft. We are going to be going through the anatomy of an attack, identity theft fallout, what happens when you get attacked, and then 3 critical takeaways, things that you need to be doing in order to make sure that you or your loved ones or your friends are not susceptible to these kind of attacks. We're going to be bringing on my friend Maureen, and if you want to check out her book, you can go to allthingssecured.com/theft. And a special thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. You can go to joindeleteme.com/allthingssecured to get 20% off. This is a great way to erase your information online and just remove that digital footprint as much as you can. That's a great way to do it. Okay, this is Maureen. Maureen, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And hopefully, I'm just really hopeful that what I share and all the hard lessons that I went through can help protect your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. You've written a book called The Guide to, what is it, Surviving
A
Identity
survival
Theft?
guide to identity theft.
The
Yeah.
Survival Guide to Identity Theft. And I think, what you and I were talking about before we even got started was just the fact that this was I would go so far as to say a traumatic event for you. Would you
Oh,
say
yeah.
that?
Yeah. 100%. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that I kind of believe it's going to happen to everyone. It's not a matter of if anymore, it's when.
Yeah.
And when it happens, it is horrible. I I guess there's different levels, and I got hit the hardest. I was level 1, in the trenches. It was bad.
Oh man. Okay. Well, why don't you just start telling us a little bit of that story? How did this happen? What exactly transpired? And give us a little bit of a timeline there.
Yeah, sure. So there's 3 parts to it, I would say. Or, but before I begin, I want to just back up and just give people a little bit of background, just to level set, because I know some of the things I'll be talking about aren't as important in other parts of the world. So first off, if you can't tell from my accent, I'm from the US and I'm in Boston. So yeah, we had the World Cup as well, and it was amazing. I watched every single match. But yeah, back to identity theft. So I'm in the United States. So some of this you just have to take and apply, because not everything's going to apply internationally. So just keep that in mind. And then 2 is in the United States, your social security number is like your master key. This is like the key to unlock everything. I know from talking to when I was going through it, I met with the bank every single day pretty much. And one of the representatives that I was meeting with, she was from Scotland, and she was saying that she has, so Boston is, if you don't know, a hub for a lot of international students. And so we have international students come over for university, and people would just put their social security number on just like a piece of paper and bring it around with them in their wallet, because they didn't realize how important it is here. In the US, your social security is not only for government, it's for besides taxes and healthcare, it's for credit, it's for banking, it's for credit cards, it's
Yeah.
for your whole life is
You need it for
tied
everything.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's really important to just put that on the table, just so I don't know where all your listeners are
Yeah.
coming in from, but I think that's really good to just level set. So when I start explaining,
Yeah.
you realize how bad this is.
Yeah.
Um, so back to your question. So it kind of happened in a couple phases. So the first phase was actually in 2024, and that wasn't as bad. I would say that's like a level 3, and that's pretty much what most people that's their intro, I guess, to identity theft, where someone opens up a credit card in their name, or just you go in your credit statement and you see a couple charges that you don't recognize. They're pretty easy to block. You just call the credit company and just say, "This, I didn't apply for this card," and they'll take your application. They'll take that off. But after that, I so that happened in December 2024, and that spooked me. So I
Yeah.
went through all my credit cards, all my bank accounts. I changed passwords. I set up what I'm sure we'll get more into, but like there's different kinds of security that you can put in place. So there's like two-factor authentication.
Yep.
So I would get text messages whenever I tried to log on. And there's also other forms. And so I set up all these safety measures. Um, and then I also applied to, so in the US, and I think they're around the world, but there's these, there are
Credit bureaus.
bureaus called
Yeah.
credit bureaus. Yeah. And so I applied to the three main credit bureaus that I knew of at the time: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. And so you can create like a free account with them. And that's what I did. I just created a free account and I froze my accounts and then put like alerts on them. And I thought I was all set. And so a
Yeah.
couple months later, so that was part one. I just wanted to put that out there
And
because
and
then,
honestly, I'm going to interrupt you here. Like, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
anybody, most people who are listening are like, okay, yeah, you did the right things. Like, that's exactly right. You went and changed your password. You set up a credit freeze. It's like these are the things that I would have normally told somebody to do. And what you're
yeah,
saying is that was just the beginning. Like there was more to come.
yes, yeah.
Okay, so what
And so
came
I'm not
next?
sure. Yeah. So I don't know if they were linked or if it was completely separate groups. Honestly, I don't know how well, there's so many data breaches that I'm sure my information's just like floating around out there and
Yeah.
everyone's is. Um, but yeah, so the second instance happened in last July. Um, just like a random day, I got a email from Experian, one of the credit bureaus, saying that all my information had been changed. And
Whoa.
I immediately called Experian, and you had someone asking about AI and all of that. But so all these Experian, TransUnion, they all have automated voice messaging systems that navigators. And so you call and they ask for your social security. But because all my information had already been changed and it's tied to my social security, they're like, oh, we can text you your code, but it would go to the fraudster. And so I could not get a human on the phone.
Yeah.
So I had to put a dispute in and try to open a case to be like, I did not change this.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of this. Um,
So they went in and changed your social security number
I don't know
was
how.
the same,
Yeah.
but they changed the phone number, email, all the other information that was associated with that so that
Address. Yeah.
anything that you had tried to do to confirm that it was you now
Yeah.
was the fact that that's even possible just kind of infuriates me. It just tells me how broken
It really
this
does.
system is. Okay, sorry, keep going.
No. Yeah. It really, I was really upset because like I had no idea how this happened. They lifted my, of course, since now that they have access, they lifted my credit freeze, which means that they could go and start opening up new accounts. And so they immediately went and started opening new accounts in my name. And but that wasn't it. So they hit my Experian, and then they went to TransUnion, did the same thing. I'm like I said, I don't know how they got my social security number, so I don't know how they got
Sure.
and like I said, these are automated systems, so I don't know how they got a human in the first place to even like change any of this.
Yeah.
Um, so that was what they first did, and then they started attacking all of my credit cards and all of my banks. And so I had a number of banks, like I said, I had set up all these controls around them. And
Hmm.
so, like, I had Chase and I had like two-factor authentication, I had passwords, but they would call like um, the helpline or whatever and get someone on the phone and they just start changing things on the back and like everyone some banks would send me a text and I would
Mm.
know that something's being changed so I could get in and I could stop them from
Yeah.
within the app, but sometimes they would just change it. So like my husband and I had a joint bank account with Ali, that's a US bank, and what happened was they closed the bank account and they were trying to take all the money out that we had.
Oh my
Luckily,
goodness.
my husband still got a notification because I didn't get a notification. I had no idea. Um, and so he was able to call. We got our money back from there. But this is all happening during the day. And this happens all throughout the day. So, like for Chase, when I was mentioning that, I got hit like 8 or 9 times in a day. And so, luckily, I never lost money with them, but it was just like you had to stop everything. You had to stop your life. Like I'd be in the middle of a meeting with, so just to give you background, I don't do fraud in my day to day. I'm a controls. I work at a bank. Um, I'm in risk and controls. And so I have a day job, but like you have to stop your day job to deal
Yeah.
with this. And this happened for a couple of weeks. And so like I was fighting them off as best as I could. We were closing everything down and freezing what I could. Um, the Experian and the TransUnion, I did get back. It took actually 3 weeks for them to get back to me and to
Wow.
get my account back under my control. Um, I'm debating. I'll just say it. I don't. So I'm going to be very frank. I don't know if this is 100%. So, Josh, please like
Go ahead.
stop me if
You're fine.
if you don't want me to say it. But so when I was researching how to get your account back for like Experian, what I realized is that Experian, they're trying to set up like their own little bank system, and so they have this smart checking. And so I think what happened was the fraudster called, set up a smart checking account, and that took over my free account. And so
Hmm.
you just need to be aware that some of these credit bureaus and things have other ways.
Yeah.
Um, they're trying to, of course, make money, and they don't want you to have a free account. So if someone calls and sets up their like an interest account for a for free checking, then they're going to take over the free account. And I think
Yeah.
that's what happened.
That's just crazy to me. I think one of the
I
things
know.
that frustrates me most about the credit bureau system is the fact that it is a
Yeah,
for-profit system. Like in my mind,
it
it
is. Yeah.
shouldn't be a for-profit system, and so they're constantly. I mean, they're trying to get me to pay to lock down my account. I was like, no, I have the legal right
Oh,
to
yeah.
freeze my account. Why are you asking me to pay? Or
Yeah.
they're trying to open up and like act as a bank, which is ridiculous as well. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing about these credit reporting
Exactly.
agencies that I like at all. I just the fact that I have to interact with them, and I don't like it when I have to. I just,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we've been through
So,
here. You know, now this is like a 2 year span that this has all happened.
yeah. And that's not even over yet
Oh no. Okay,
because,
keep going.
yeah. So I was going to say the last one was actually the worst. And so this was a CD my husband and I had together with Marcus by Goldman Sachs. And that turned out to be the worst. And so, so Goldman Sachs has a really good interest rate. And so we opened up a CD with them. So I'm just telling people this because I know others have. And just to for your awareness, these some of these banks don't have physical branches. So that's
Mhm.
one thing that you always want to like look for
Yeah.
is don't go for banks that don't have a physical branch. You need to be able to go in and talk to someone.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. And so one thing with the when we were doing the CD is so my um that was a joint account. You would think this was, maybe other people knew this. I did not. I didn't know that either party could close a joint account without the other party being present.
Really?
So, yeah, that's crazy. It didn't make sense to me. Like I would think that both parties had to be present. So my thief went in, closed my joint account, um, and opened up a new one. But one control I had in place was a safe word. And for those of you who are newer to the identity theft or just like the controls world, so safe words are supposed to be the most like secure word. Like only your bank and you are supposed to know it. You're never supposed to change it. You're never supposed to change the question that goes around with it. And it, it's supposed like in the tier of what's the best protection, safe words are always said to be at the top. But this is another point where I'm kind of looking forward to AI because you can get um, you can get help desk people that are just a little too helpful. And so what they would do is my thief would call in and be like, "Oh, I forgot the password." And they would
The
change
help
it.
word.
They would change it right there every single time. They would change the question and the password. So like I would call in and I'd be like, they'd ask, "Oh, what's your," for an example, Pokemon, like what's your favorite Pokemon? And I would say Jigglypuff. And they would be like, "No." And then they would be like, "Do you want me to tell you the answer?" And I was like, "Okay, like you're not supposed to do that, but like obviously I keep getting this wrong." And then they told me like something completely different. And I'm like, "That's not even a Pokemon," because they like said a car, like a
Wow.
Lotus or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not even a Pokemon." And then they're like, "Do you want to change your question?" And this happened every single time I call in.
Wow.
And Marcus was the worst one out of all of them because, like I said, it doesn't have a physical branch. And so this took me over 4 weeks to get my money this from the
Hmm.
CD out because the fraudster would call at the same time I was, and we would have a help desk person watching as my information got changed and being like, "I have no idea how to even stop this."
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean that had to have been incredibly frustrating. And for those that are watching right now, we are going to give you like 3 action steps at the end here. So be
yeah,
sure you stick around because this is going to be super important. If you don't want this to happen to you, there are ways that you can stop it now. But I want to get a general idea of the fallout here. What was the fallout? You said it took how like 4 weeks, but
it
I mean, is this
it
something you're
took like
still
three
dealing
months.
with? 3 months?
So luckily, yeah, I would say 3 months, and I was on the lucky side because I was able to stop everything right when it was happening. I think a lot of people don't notice when this starts, and I think that's one of the biggest things is people, everyone's busy. Like some people have kids, some people have aging parents, and so you're not paying attention to every little thing. I was just lucky. I had all the controls in place. I had My husband does the same thing. We have all the controls, we have all the protections in place, and we were fast. And that's really what kept me from losing any money.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of people have it go on for even longer than I did.
Yeah. I think like I've heard that many times, and I haven't had identity theft to the same level that you have. I have had security breaches on my
Yeah,
Google account and other stuff, and speed matters, right? It is like
it
you've got
does.
to jump on that, and that's like what you were saying earlier, where something comes up and you kind of have to drop everything and work on it that
Yeah,
moment, or else like you risk losing a lot. Like the risk is high
yeah,
if the speed is slow.
it really is. And it's daunting because like you'll be on, like for Marcus when I was talking about them, I was on the phone with them for 3 hours every single day.
That's
And I'm
so
not kidding
ridiculous.
when I say it was 3 hours. We timed it because we would be sitting there as they changed everything. And it was every single day for 3 hours. I would be on the phone with them.
Did you end up losing any money at all?
No,
Did you get a
I
ding on
didn't.
your credit?
No, so I was lucky because since I responded so quickly, I didn't get any dings. I didn't lose any money. Um, but even if I did, I don't know how I would get it back.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And I was talking to the police, and I 100% believe the police are like trying to do the right thing. They just don't have, same with the FBI, they just don't have the people to
Yeah.
look into this because it's happening all the time. One police officer I was talking to who like investigates frauds, he said he has someone who's got $2 million stolen, and that's too small for the FBI to even look into.
Oh my
The Fed,
goodness.
yeah. And so it's like if they're not even looking into $2 million, like what can we do? So
Yeah.
you just have to be really prepared. You have to be fast. You have to have all the controls in place.
Yeah. And then, if you can, how much time would you estimate that I'm going to say wasted on
Oh
this whole
my gosh.
process? Do you have an idea? Is like, are we talking about a couple hundred, or do you think it's 1,000 hours?
I don't know. like I said, it was 3 hours every day for 3 months with Marcus. So
Wow.
all of that plus
Yeah. 3
um,
times 30
all my others.
times 3. Yeah. So we're in the hundreds for sure. A few hundred. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, okay. That's scary. And I think there's a couple things I want to point out here as I'm talking, as I'm reacting to what Maureen's saying and also just speaking to you who's watching this right now. Like, it's one thing if it's us, it's another thing if it's like our parents or somebody in our family or friend circle that isn't nearly as tech savvy as you are. I think this is where it really becomes important to think about not just yourself, but your family as well, because this is something that can literally ruin someone's credit. I know people who can no longer get a loan for a house or a car or even open a credit card because their credit's been ruined by identity theft,
Wow.
or they've actually lost money. Like Maureen is one of the lucky ones that didn't lose any money. But there are so many people that they can lose their life savings. And whereas the $2 million to the FBI may not be enough to warrant an investigation, a couple $100,000 to some people might be their entire life savings, right? And so we've got to be aware that this is a risk, that this is a problem. And then we need to be taking the steps in order to mitigate any risk here. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to take a quick break. We're going to talk about those 3 things that you can do. And I think that you need to stick around for that. But I want to say thank you to Delete Me. One of the things that Maureen said that is absolutely true is that you can just pretty much count on the fact that your data has already been leaked out in a data breach and it's out there somewhere. Delete Me has found literally at this point over the past 3 years, thousands of places where my data has been uploaded and put somewhere online for sale, some kind of data broker, and it gets pulled from so many different places. The data breaches, even the government. The government has these public records and these data brokers will scrape those public records, compile all of that into a profile, and then sell that profile. So if you want to erase your personal information online, and if you want to kind of cut off spam from the source, whether that's phone, email, or even physical mail spam, using Delete Me has been one of the best things for my family. And you can get a special 20% off savings if you go to joindeleteme.com/allthingssecured. You can do an annual plan for just yourself or for you and a family member. This is something that I have for my parents, for myself and my wife, and it helps again to just remove everything online. And I recommend it for anybody who basically just anybody, but definitely for those people that don't have the time to go in and try to find all of these places themselves, because you can manually go and remove your personal information. But I think it just is so much easier to have a service like Delete Me do it. All right, let's get back to Maureen here. Maureen, I want you to walk us through the 3 things that you wish you would have done differently, or maybe the 3 things that you've learned from this process that we can take away as we think about identity theft in our lives.
Yeah. It's so hard to just keep it to 3. I feel like I learned a lot. Like it was a horrible experience, but I actually feel I came away with a lot that I learned. So I think the first one, if you haven't already done this, you should definitely freeze and place a fraud alert on all your credit bureaus. And there's actually not just 3 credit bureaus. Those are definitely the 3 that you should look into first, especially if you haven't had identity theft before. But there's also bank bureaus, and then there's a ton of niche bureaus. I have a whole list of them in my book. I can name off a few if people are interested, but definitely look into getting a freeze and a fraud alert on your account. They're free. They're not going to mess up your credit score at all. Just to give a little background, so a fraud alert would just like a pop up to your lenders, and agents can either override it or they can, usually they'll stop and at least take notice and give you a call if they see a fraud alert on your credit bureau.
Yeah.
And so like that's if someone tries to apply for new credit cards under your name. The credit, like I got tons from like Navy Federal Credit Union, and I'm never been in the Navy. And so So they would call and ask if this was legitimate. And so I think that's really good to set up. You can set up for 1 year at a time, unless you've had actual um, identity theft, and then you can submit a police report and get up to 3 years.
Okay.
And then a credit freeze is also free, and that just blocks anything from getting through. You can, it will block any creditor from opening anything new under your name. They can't overwrite it. Um, you can also thaw it. So like when I went to buy a house, I had all my freezes on like even my bank bureaus, and so that froze everything, and they couldn't look at my scores. And so you just thaw it. It's just you can put in for like 2 or 3 days. Um, and so I really highly recommend doing that.
Okay. You mentioned, obviously, we know or at least if we're in the US, we know the three main credit bureaus. What are some of the other credit bureaus that you're aware of that might be even more valuable to people that are not in the US? Because I know that it kind of depends geographically
Oh,
on where you're at.
yeah, so that's a good question. I don't really know credit bureaus that are outside of the US. I
Okay.
did all of my research on the US.
Then tell us the ones in the
Um,
US. Yeah.
Yeah. So besides the big three, which are TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, which you should 100% sign up and get a free account for, if anything, just to make sure that you're the one who sets it up instead of your fraudsters.
Yeah.
Um, so get those set up. And then there's also bank bureaus called like check systems, and that's where like all banks go. So it's the same thing as like with your credit agency. So like if you set up an Amex card, they'll check Equifax or Experian. If you set up a bank, so like Bank of America, this check systems. So you want to do that. And then another one that's similar is called LexisNexis, and
Hmm.
they also do similar.
Okay.
But then there's a whole host of other ones. So like some of the biggest ones that I definitely think you should sign up for are the National Consumer Telecom and Utilities Exchange. So that's like if someone signs up and tries to take out utilities under your name. So get that
Oh,
closed. And then the Medical Information Bureau. So that's so if no one can sign up and get medical records under your name.
interesting. Wow. Okay. So for those who are maybe, I don't have this for those who are watching live, but if you're watching this video on demand later, I will put links to all of those, or you can get Maureen's book. I've got that available at allthingssecure.com/theft. And so you can go to Amazon and purchase that, and that'll list out a lot of those as well. So I'm assuming that you and your husband both have individual freezes on every single
Yes.
one of those. See, I mean, this is good. This is good, but it just infuriates me that these are the hoops that we have to jump through just to make sure that somebody can't use our information and impersonate us and wreak havoc on our lives. Okay,
Yeah.
so a credit freeze, a credit alerts, that's helpful, but like as we've talked about, that's kind of a lot of people are at least generally aware of that. What's another step that you've taken that you think
Yeah.
is important?
I know you've talked about it in some of your videos, but if you haven't already, also make sure you get an IRS PIN.
Hmm.
So an IRS PIN is like a 6-digit PIN for filing your taxes. And this makes sure that no one can file taxes under your name. So make sure you get that. Um, Definitely don't not do that. That's the most one of the most important things.
Yes.
And then the third thing isn't actually a tip. It's more like something you should just know.
Okay.
And I don't think people know about it because it's called Early Warning Service, EWS for short.
Okay. Tell us about
And
this.
it's, yeah, so EWS is created by the major banks. So Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, PNC, they all came together and founded this company called Early Warning Service, EWS. And EWS acts like a credit bureau, except they're not. They're a fintech company. And what they do is they take all your data from the banks and they store it. And they use it because they're actually the ones who own, if you've heard of it, Zelle and Pass.
Yes.
And so all the major banks off, most of them offer what is called Zelle. and
Okay.
that's for international watcher
Transfers.
watchers. Yeah, no, well, for your users who are watching from
Oh, okay.
international locations.
Gotcha.
Zelle is just like peer-to-peer payment system, and
Yeah.
so that's all you have to think about it. It's if someone's at Bank of America, they can pay someone at Wells Fargo. And but like I said, it acts like a credit bureau, and um, you can't opt out of it. So if you use one of these major banks, and it's actually not even just the major banks, it's like every bank. You have to go online and look up your bank. So you go to enroll.zellepay.com and you can look up if your bank is part of them. Because I just like can't stress this enough. This just infuriates me so much. So when I was talking to you about about how all my accounts got hacked and
Yes.
how I didn't know how some of my information was getting out. One thing I didn't mention was my Bank of America no one ever got into my Bank of America, but they were sending wires, they were had charges coming against it. And so I would close down my Bank of America and open up a new account. And this happened again and again and again. And I did this 4 times where I closed down an account, opened a new one, and before I even got the debit card, I was already getting charges against it. And I hadn't told anyone the number, the account, or anything, any of the information, and I was still getting hit. And I couldn't figure out what was happening. And then I found out about EWS and Zelle. And so I requested uh, um, what's called a disclosure report. So I requested this disclosure report from them,
Okay.
and I was blown away. I highly suggest all your users in the US go and look up and request your disclosure report because it will have every single bank account that you've ever had, when it was open, when it was closed, how much money you have every single day, every transaction. And then one of the things is they don't hide your account number. So what my hacker was doing was they got a disclosure report from me, and that's how they found out about all my other bank accounts, was because all my banks are part of this Zelle EWS
Mm-hmm.
network.
Yeah.
And so they could just see what my account number was for every single bank I had. And really, just go look this up.
Yeah.
It's just really infuriating. And so there's no way to opt out if your bank is part of EWS. There you can't unsubscribe or anything. You have to just take all your money from one of those big banks
Yeah.
and go find like a local credit union.
Wow.
But I that's so
But
that's
there's
not
no way
something
to
that
like
like you can really
remove
protect.
this report.
No,
Okay. So
no.
then what does going to enroll.zellepay.com, what
You can
exactly does
just
that do?
it's a huge list where you can see if your bank is part of them. And you can
Okay.
see all the other banks that use are part of them too. And so if you're ever looking for like a local credit union, you can see if they're part of this EWS network.
Gotcha.
So sorry
Okay.
if I didn't make that clear.
No. You're great. All right. So let me see here. I'm gonna go ahead and put up on here. I guess this is your early
This is
warning.
my disclosure report if you're putting it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so I see account numbers, I see amounts, I see account closed. Like all of them are closed at this point.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so this was just publicly available. How did your attacker
Yeah.
get this?
So they actually, so when you call and request a disclosure report, you're supposed to send in like identification that
Hmm.
you're the true person. They created a fake ID of me from Florida and they sent
Oh,
in the fake ID. I couldn't get access to it. But that's what they did. The representative that I was speaking to was like, "Oh, did you send this in from Florida?" And I was like, "No." And then,
so they just used a
but
fake,
what can
like
you
they just
do?
digitally
Yeah,
created a fake ID.
yes, and they got it
Wow.
notarized too.
Oh my gosh. Probably,
Yeah.
obviously. Do you think it was a real notary or was it faked as
Well,
well?
I didn't see it. I'm going to say that it's fake. I think it's pretty easy actually to become a notary. So they
Yeah.
probably, I don't think it's one person. So that's also another thing I'll mention. There are whole rings of people who go around and try to scam others. And so it's usually never just one person.
Yeah.
It will be multiple people working together. Like I
Yeah.
said, I was getting, if I had to be on the call with Marcus and some of these bank accounts for, or banks for like 3 hours, like it's likely not just one person sitting there doing the exact same thing. They're
Yeah.
trading off.
It's like some kind of call center somewhere else in the
Yeah.
world. So you've got one more
Yeah.
slide here that's about India. What's this about here?
Oh, yeah. So, if any of your listeners are from India, just know that some of these American companies do expand. And so, like early warning system, Zelle is going to head up to India. And so, if you have family there or if you have bank accounts there, just know that you could be part of this whole network and all your information could be here. And so, their scams could just pick up.
Wow. Okay. So just to kind of go back here, make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm going to put you up on this, but you talked about doing a freeze and a fraud alert. So setting up a freeze.
Yes.
You talked about setting up a freeze with all these different bureaus, right? So we would be, I see Factor Trust, Microbilt, DataX, like these are niche
Yeah.
bureaus. And unfortunately, it is up to us to actually go and set up
Yeah.
a freeze on all of these. And then you talked about account protection, right? So making sure we've got 2FA, that safe word. I'm a big fan of using 2FA keys, physical keys, if you have
Yeah.
access to that. And then finally, being aware of this early warning system. My understanding here is that there's not much that we can do about this early warning system other than just being
No.
aware because you can't opt out of it. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's like if you're getting attacked and you keep closing your bank accounts, this could be why. They could just
Okay.
have access to your early warning s- service, and then you just have to get out of that bank altogether and go find a bank that's not part of the network.
Okay.
And
So
that's what I
then,
had to do in the end.
yeah. So you have all this stuff set up. Let's say that, somebody who's watching or listening to this right now gets all these things set up, and then there is some kind of something gets past all of these protections. What would you say is the
Oh,
first thing? Like speed is number one, right? But
yeah.
two, is it just like you just got to get on the phone? You got to be relentless on the phone. Is that basically it, or is there more to it?
That is that is 100% it in the end. That is what's going to save you is you just have to be just as fast as them. You can't be like, "Oh, I'll handle this tomorrow."
Hmm.
Um, which unfortunately I feel a lot of people come down
Yeah.
to. They're just like, oh, I don't have time to deal with this right now. I'll deal with this tomorrow. And you can't. You have to deal with as soon as you get the notice.
Yeah. Well, I would like to thank Maureen for joining us. And again, go to allthingssecure.com/theft. That's where you'll find her book. And I've got a giveaway that we're going to do here in about 5 or 10 minutes. So be sure to stick around for that. But I want to do a little bit of Q&A. And Maureen, I've got you up. Hopefully, I don't even know where that one's from an old one. Let's see here. Add to the broadcast. There is... I just wanted to kind of mention this. Zach
Yeah.
says that there are regularly occurring mail thieves in his city. And I'm sure in all cities, the
Yeah.
security cameras catch them going into people's mailboxes. That is another way. Like we talked about, Delete Me and all of the, data brokers that have your data, but some people literally just have it stolen out of their mailbox. Do you feel like that? I mean, your attackers were probably somewhere else in the world though, right?
I think they were in Florida. Yeah. But
Okay.
for that, I would suggest you do informed delivery.
Hmm.
So so not banks, UPS, you can go to any UPS and set up, or you can just go online and set up a free account and
Hmm.
sign up for informed delivery. And so you know what's supposed to be coming to you every day.
Yeah.
And it just sends you an email. I think you can do text as well, but I do email. And it just gives you like a snapshot of everything that's supposed to be coming to you that day. And that's one way to protect yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for
it
sharing that.
happens.
By the way, if you're watching right now live, please leave a question in the comments. I'm pulling up a couple of them right now. This is another great question from Tubi that says, is setting these freezes all free? I'm aware of
Yeah.
TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. The other ones that you listed, are those all free as well?
Yeah, I didn't have to pay.
You didn't have
Don't
to pay.
pay.
Yeah. No,
Don't
and,
pay.
and that's
And
a
you can also get credit reports too, and you don't have to pay for those. Don't pay
exactly.
for them.
Yeah, I think that is another great takeaway here is because all of these credit bureaus are for profit. They're going to try to I think it's deceptive. They're going to try to get you to pay for something, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
sign up, you have to use your email or some like you can use an alias, but still you have to create an account in order to set up a freeze. And in that process, they're going to try to sell you on all sorts of different services. And I think what Maureen said, and I'm going to back it up 100%, you do not have to pay at all for a credit freeze or for a, what would you call it, a credit report, at least one a year, right? Or is that changed?
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah. So you should be able to pull a credit report and then like I said, they're going to try to get you to pay for all these services and just don't do it. It's ridiculous. Okay. So that was a great question from Tubi. Let's see. I'm going to go back from an earlier one. We need AI government where all data are encrypted. And I would just seeing how AI can be manipulated. The last thing I want is any kind of AI having authority over anything that we're doing. It is scary to think how much they were able to, like the attackers were able to, we call it social engineering for us humans, but I guess it would just be AI engineering for AI. Is that what we call it? Wow.
I think I agree with you, Josh. So I don't know if you talked about this when it happened, but I think 2 years ago, and actually in Asia, I think it was Hong Kong, there was like someone who was just like a staff level accountant got a call from their CEO asking for them to wire money. And because it was like they were on a call, he could see the CEO's face and everything. And so
Wow.
he wired the money, but it turned out that it wasn't. It was all AI
Yeah.
generated.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're getting into things outside of, just regular identity theft, but that's where, especially for that kind of stuff, I always recommend double authentication through different channels, right? So if you get a phone call from
yeah,
somebody, and I talk about this with my parents as well, where if and I live overseas, so there are times when I need to have my parents do something on my behalf in the US, pay this person, do something like that. Like most of the time I can do it, but there are some rare occasions. And I always tell my parents, hey, I'm gonna text you, but then we need to confirm, in another way. And you talked about a safe word. My family has a safe word as well that only my parents and I know, so that if somebody reaches out to them saying that they're me. And my mom's like, what's the safe word? If they don't have that safe word, and hope AI doesn't know what that safe word is. So hopefully they can't engineer that out of AI. All right. Well, let me see if there's any other questions here. Okay. This is a great question. Do you no longer use or trust Zelle?
yeah, I don't use it.
Really? But you
No, yeah,
can't
I
opt
don't.
out, right?
I opted out of the banks that use it, and so
So
now
you don't
I don't
use a
have.
bank that uses Zelle.
Yeah, I don't use Bank of America. I took all my money out of all of the banks that were connected to it because that was the only way that I could stop the attacks. Was I completely left.
Ooh, wow. That feels nuclear to me. I mean, I get it.
It
You
is.
just got like totally destroyed. But I mean, that's a lot of banks.
That is.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's in a way it's inconvenient
mhm.
because like Bank of America, PNC,
Chase.
they're everywhere. The
Yeah.
Chase, they're everywhere. So it's really hard, but
I
that's
would
what I
venture
had
to
to do
say
to keep
that, I
myself.
mean, I guess with the exception of maybe credit unions, that there aren't too many other banks that I'm aware of that have physical branches that aren't a part of the Zelle network. So that really limits your ability
It
to,
does.
yeah.
But if you have to go nuclear, you have to go nuclear. And
Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's, I
but
mean,
that's
that's,
just something to keep in mind.
yeah, yeah. So maybe I don't know if cause I do, here's the counter to that is that I do use
Yeah.
Zelle. I kind of like, it's really hard for me living overseas to not be able to pay somebody through something like Zelle.
Oh yeah.
But I do think, there, like, as I'm like processing everything that we're talking about here, there needs to be a way to opt out. Like it should not be a system where you cannot opt out. So great question. Great question. Here we go.
Yeah,
Let's,
I know in like if you're international, so I was trying to look into it for
yeah.
like international banks. There's something similar. I forget, I should have written it down the name of it, but like in Europe, but it doesn't act like its own kind of credit bureau where it keeps your
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
And so I think other countries are safer in
Interesting.
that regards.
Yep. Okay. Can I get my credit report information if I live overseas? If so, can I do it online using a VPN? Maureen, do you want me to take this one since I live
You
overseas
might
or?
know better. Yeah.
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 I have no issues getting my credit report overseas. I don't even think I have to use a VPN. If I do, I haven't had a problem with it. So yeah, I'm able to get, and the way that I do it personally is you're allowed to get one free credit report per credit bureau. And so I just space it out with the three major credit bureaus. So once every 4 months, I'll pull one from TransUnion, and then I'll pull one from Equifax 4 months later, and then from Experian 4 months after that. You know, like, yeah, let me be honest. I am not that good about it. I'll skip some every once in a while. I think it's more one of those things where when things are happening, you're a lot more vigilant. And then as time goes on, and time has gone on, it's been 5 years since I've had any kind of attack, maybe a little bit more than that. And so my vigilance has kind of gone down. But now that we're talking about it and it's top of mind, it might go back up. But short answer to the question, yes, you can get your credit report. You should get your credit report while you're overseas. Okay, next question. How does Yubico keys play into all this to protect accounts? And when they're talking about Yubico keys, let me see if I can pull this up so
Okay.
you can see this. Like a Yubico key, they didn't sponsor this, but it's just a 2FA key that you can keep. Let me see here. And it's a physical key. Somebody has to have the key. The security from that key cannot be copied and used elsewhere. And so in order for an attacker to access an account, they physically have to have a key. Maureen, have you used a physical key at all in all of this?
No, I never did, but I
Okay.
definitely think you should, especially if you're into crypto at all. Keep your crypto
Yeah.
password on a key like that. I I have thought about it since, but I just haven't done it.
Yeah. No, I mean, a 2FA key is something that I advocate for a lot. I think that it's a very powerful security tool that can be a little bit daunting to somebody who's never used one before. It feels like, oh my goodness, like it's like what if I lose this key? Like there's a lot of what ifs involved. I generally recommend to have two keys that you use to secure all your major accounts, mostly financial bank accounts like this. Let me say that again. A lot of banks don't accept keys yet, but there are some that do. And there are a lot of accounts that offer some kind of 2FA. So this is my recommendation. Let's say if it's one of the credit bureaus or anything that you're working with, setting up 2FA. This is something Maureen talked about. Within that, there are 3 levels, right? There's SMS text, which is not my favorite. Like it's the least secure of the 3. Then you have what's called an authenticator app or something that is like a third party presents a code or a word. And then finally the
And those are
top.
free.
Yeah, those are free as well. And then the key is the top level of security. It's not free. You do have to pay for the keys. but you physically have to have those keys in your possession. And so just set up 2FA and then use the highest level of those three that are allowed within that particular account. Because not all, like I said, banks don't, they offer the authentication app sometimes. They definitely do like some kind of either SMS text or email verification, but very few of them have the 2FA key, whereas a lot of other accounts will give you all sorts of different options. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to pull up this question, although I think it's really unrelated. Did you see last week that an AI was on a closed server system? Yeah, this was OpenAI.
Yes, Hugging Face.
Hugging Face. That was so interesting. Attacking 15 different banking systems. Did it attack banking systems?
I didn't hear about that.
I didn't hear about that either. I think it was mostly just this Hugging Face, and it very fascinating, very worrisome. And I saw like an interview with like one of the top executives at OpenAI, and it did not quell my concern at all. Like he did not answer many of the, hey, why did this happen? And what are we doing about it type of questions. All right. If anybody else has any other questions, now is the time to ask. I am going to pull this one up just for the sake of Maureen, because it says, I would also like to thank Maureen for being so forthcoming. Maureen, thank you very much for all of your just help in all this. I'm going to put this up just so that you can see it. This is Maureen's book, Survival Guide to Identity Theft. You see the QR code here, or again, you can go to allthingssecure.com/theft and you can download that. I also wanted to mention, and I'm doing this just because I really wanted to thank Maureen for just giving of her time freely. I am going to give away 10 copies of this book to somebody on our email list. And so I'll be sending out an email this Friday, like I almost always do. And so if you go to allthingssecure.com/newsletter, you can not only see a lot of the past newsletters to see what it's like, but you can also add your email in there. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway of 10 of Maureen's books, whether whether it's useful for you or whether you want to give it away to your mom and dad or to somebody else in your life for whom it would be beneficial. That's what we're doing. And so, yeah, if you want to go into allthingssecure.com/newsletter, make sure you add your email there so that you can be ready for the email that's coming out this Friday, where I will talk about how you can, basically be part of this giveaway. Because I don't want to just give it away to anybody. I want to give it away to people that want to get this book. And the way you're going to know about that is being on the email. So, Maureen, is there anything else that you wanted to add here as we close up?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. And I really hope that no one else ever has to go through this. I don't know if I stressed it enough as we were talking, but this was a horrible experience. And like I said at the beginning, it's not a matter of if anymore, it's when. And it's going to happen to all of us. The degree might be different, but we just have to be safe. We have to be aware. And I actually think we have to help each other. And so that's part of why I wanted to come on with, you don't know about this information until it happens.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, again, a special thank you to Maureen, and thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this. If you would like to be able to take advantage of a service that will search the internet for your personal information and make legal requests to remove it on your behalf, you can go to joindeleteme.com/allthingssecured. I'll put this up here again, joindeleteme.com/allthingssecured. You can get 20% off when you use that link for either yourself or even for you and your spouse. If you go to international.joindeleteme.com, or I think it's joindeleteme.com/international, and then you can use All Things Secured as your promo code. You can also do that for those who are not in the United States.